call me Ruva, which is absolutely fine, by the way. It's not just a Westerner's meaningless invention to cope with my seemingly exotic name, no. My mom also calls me that. And I come from Zimbabwe. Now, whenever I state this fact, I can bet either two of the following questions come up. Number one, how is Mugabe doing? Thrown around very casually as if him and I are best buddies or something, constantly in touch. To those of you that don't know Robert Mugabe, he is the 95-year-old newly former president of Zimbabwe, stayed in power for about 40 years, a period where Zimbabwe's economy crumbled from once being referred to as the breadbasket to, let's say, perhaps the bread beggar of Africa. The second most likely and perhaps a little more logical question is, how did you end up in Belgium? Not like in a mean way, like how did you end up in Belgium, but really in a curious, wanting to know more kind of tone. And this always prompts me to tell my story. Now, 8 years ago, fresh out of high school, during the peak of Zimbabwean economic meltdown, I was faced with the first most important decision in my life. Where was I going to study in college, and what? Now, since our local educational system had collapsed, neither I nor any of my peers were looking to stay at home. So where most of my friends went for scholarship opportunities in countries like South Africa, because, well, it's close enough to home, they have a wide array of decent universities and somewhat of a functional economy, or the USA, because, well, they just know how to sell the American dream down there. I went a different route. So based on my extremely limited knowledge of European history at that time, I had learned of a country that went through severe hyperinflation and overcame dismal economic meltdown to be the leading economy in Europe. So off I was on a mission to acquire a degree in economics from a private university in Germany, in the naive hope to one day rescue my own country from its predicament. And all this was made possible with the generous scholarship from the Jacobs Foundation, a foundation dedicated to promote a high level of education to all, regardless of their economic background. Now you're probably wondering why I have that picture up. Well, that's actually me at the bottom extreme left. I was part of our university African choir. College was an exciting time for me. I met students from over 110 different countries. My first roommate was actually from Albania, a country that I'd never heard of before the sequel of Taken came out. So that was pretty exciting. Now, today I actually work for a company called Barry Callebaut. Now, you're probably more familiar with our brands such as Cacao Barry or Cocoa Barry, as I've heard it being referred to here, and Callebaut or Callebaut. Van Leer, yes, they're all brands that belong to Barry Callebaut, the world's largest supplier of cocoa and chocolate. They say that 1 in every 5 chocolate products is made with chocolate that we handle, a fact that we love to throw around, a little too often, I'd say. But what many people do not know is that about 51% of our dividend goes towards a foundation whose sole purpose is to advance quality education, mainly amongst children or youth from developing economies. Children who would have otherwise not had the opportunity to such a standard of education. And this foundation is the Jacobs Foundation. Now, what I spend my days doing at Barry Callebaut might actually be something worth talking about today. My job is to ensure that, in as much as we strive to provide you with the best products and services, that we do not lose sight of the cocoa farmers behind our chocolate and the terroir upon which they rely on. And it's not out of altruism, because I'm not just about to convince you that we're a business turned into charity, no. It's because we believe that a true sustainable business means investing in the source and its capabilities to ensure the continuity of our business and yours. Now, at Cacao Barry, we're owning this in the following way. Now, as some of you might know, our customers, our mission and promise to you is to elevate your creativity by unlocking the sensorial richness of cacao, something that has been imprinted in our DNA since way back when. So to us, the cocoa pod becomes the beginning of all things, the source of it all. This is why it is also our responsibility to protect and sustain the diversity of origin cacao flavors. So in other words, to feed your creativity, we need to bring out the creative best in farmers and invest in growing in their capabilities. I mean, after all, cocoa flavor is actually heavily determined at the source, at stages that are in the care of farmers, post-harvest stages such as drying and fermentation. Now, our Purité range is probably the perfect illustration of our efforts here. Now, just allow me to explain to you what Purité is about and why it matters to realizing a sustainable future for cacao. Now, to you, our customers and potential customers, Purité is our promise to deliver on pure, intense cacao taste, which is pleasantly noticeable in all your applications. It has unlimited potential when it comes to pairing, so be it with sweet, salt, umami, no conflicting aromas whatsoever. But what this intense cacao taste is actually the outcome of an innovation in fermentation for which farmers are trained and rewarded. From this process, you get a more consistent fermentation, a more intense flavor development, a reduction of fermentation days, and close to zero defect beans, and all this using 100% traceable and sustainable beans. Now, this is basically our Purité range. We have a range of chocolates from milk to dark, all with flavor, boldness, and intensity. And our aim is just to answer all your questions and find solutions in your kitchens. But that's really just the surface of what Purité is. What it is actually a program where a whole lot goes into it. It is an intricate program that involves a lot of people with one goal, and that one goal is to optimize the farmer-to-chef experience. What it entails is working with 5,000 farmers that are managed in 16 cooperatives, and they are in direct contact with our quality sourcing, fermentation specialists on the ground. And the aim is to keep the flow segregated to make sure that we preserve this quality that goes into it. But the very best part is actually the impact we're having in improving the farmers' know-how and conditions to grow better flavors. So in that case, it becomes of benefit to the farmer as well. First of all, we're helping him combat farmer poverty. This is a challenge that lies at the core of our industry challenge. There's no secret behind that. But on top of that, we're also helping the farmer to grow his expertise in fermentation and receive a premium for his extra effort. And on top of that, we pay a double premium on all our Purité range because they receive good agricultural practices training through the activities of the Cocoa Horizons Foundation. Now, I know that right now a lot of the focus that we place with farmers is working on post-harvesting processes, but the idea is that we're just starting and will not stop there. Tomorrow, our goal is to actually expand into working with farmers and pre-harvesting. Now, this means building model farms as learning ground on how to optimize their plantations, or building diverse species nurseries to encourage farmers to start growing multi-crop plantations. This then moves the benefits to something more. It moves into more nutrients in the soils, reducing the need for pesticides, refraining from deforestation while creating additional sources of income from diverse crops. So as you can see, our mission at Cacao Berry spurs on. Now, maybe I know I'm not really saving Zimbabwe right now, but working on such initiatives does get me out of bed with a smile, even when it's gloomy and rainy outside. Now, I know you're probably thinking that sounds very cliche, but if you take into account that Belgium has the most number of rainy days, even more than the UK, then it suddenly becomes something, right? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ruba. Amazing.